Hey there, first grade. In our writing video that we listened to on Tuesday, there was a couple of things in that Brain Pop Junior video about setting that I think are really helpful for us as writers to remember. One of the things that I liked that they talked about in that video was how your setting can change. And sometimes your setting will be at one place in the beginning, and then it might be at a different place in the middle, and then maybe at the end it goes back to where it started from. So I want to look through Goldilocks and the three dinosaurs here, and I want to see how this setting has changed throughout the story. So at one point we are inside of the dinosaur's house, okay, and that's at the beginning of the story, in the dinosaur's home. And then at one point, kind of towards the middle of the story, now the setting has changed to be outside of the house. So we're more in the forest. And then they even show a different part of the setting where it has changed. Now the dinosaurs are in the forest. So now we're not even inside the house anymore. We've gone to the forest. However, when we read through the story a bit more, we notice that now the setting of the story is back inside the house, in the kitchen. Okay, so the setting will change. You have to be pretty flexible when deciding what your setting is going to be, especially because at some points the Goldilocks here is in the kitchen, and then she goes into the living room and she sees all the chairs, and then even after she's done in the living room, she then goes into the bedroom. So those are three different settings from this story. So your setting can change throughout the story, where you might start off being in one place in your book, and then in the middle of the story you go to a different place of setting, and then you go to another place of the setting, and maybe at the end you go back to where the story started from, but not always. In the story that I was writing about Buzz, I was probably going to start my story with Buzz being at the beehive with all of his other bees. Then he was going to go off into the forest, so that was my second setting. And then he was going to get stuck in the honey, maybe down on the ground. That's kind of a third setting of the story. And then hopefully all would have been figured out, and then Buzz could have gone back to the beehive at the ending of the story. So that setting changed over the story depending on what the character was doing. And your story might do the same thing too. Another thing I want to talk to you about for setting today is sometimes in your setting, you can show inside and outside spaces at the same time. I just noticed one right before I closed this book up, that the author shows inside and outside settings. Like for example, right here, you can see inside of the house and you can see outside of the house at the same exact time. There was one, yep, here it is. I can see inside the bedroom here, but look, I can also see an outside setting too. So this gives your reader even more details, because by seeing the inside of the setting where Goldilocks is going to try out some of these beds, I can also see a different thing happening here by seeing what the characters are doing outside of the house. So showing inside versus outside types of setting, and how you can show both of those sometimes. I want to share with you another thing about inside and outside details. And I'm going to show you a couple of different stories here where the illustrator and the author have worked together to create different settings for these stories. Alrighty, so here's the first one. So inside and outside details. This is Goldilocks, just like we were looking at before, and this is the one that I showed you. So right here we have Goldilocks inside the house, and then we have the setting being shown outside of the house too. So we are able to see both how the setting is inside and outside. It's almost like you have two scenes happening. You have the inside scene and you have the outside scene. Okay, so that's just one example for Goldilocks. Here's another example for Goldilocks about how we are seeing inside and outside at the same time. So Goldilocks, this is when the dinosaurs are coming home after Goldilocks has left, and we can see this outside scene with the sun and the grass and the sky, but we can also see the inside scene at the exact same time. So we're having two scenes in our story. We're showing two different types of the setting, inside the setting and outside. Different types of details are included here. Okay, this is from the story Goldilocks. We read this story for our mentor text, and it's also a version of Goldilocks and the Three Bears. So in this story, you can see what's happening outside. So we have an outside scene, and then we have an inside. You can tell this is inside because of the dresser and the picture frame. So this is an interesting way how the author and the illustrator have created an inside setting and an outside setting. One thing that I'm noticing in common here is that both of these settings we've seen so far have a window or a door, which is helping us to see the inside and outside. Like for example, in this one, the dinosaurs, and we can see them peeking in from the window. And then this one here with Goldilocks, we can see what's happening outside because of this window. And then here's another one where it's a door, just like we saw in the Goldilocks and the Three Dinosaurs book. There is a door showing us what's going on outside, and then there's an inside scene here too, showing us what's happening in the house. This is a great way to just show some extra details about what's happening, and it's kind of a fun way to add to your illustrations too. This is a story, Jack and the Beanstalk. So this is another fairy tale that we've looked at. This is different than Kate and the Beanstalk, but this is a version where you can see inside of Jack's house. So just barely through that window right here, you can see the inside of the house here, and you can also see what's happening outside. So we have an inside setting and we have an outside setting, okay? Alrighty, and then this is from the story, Can I Be Your Dog? We read this story a long time ago in first grade, but if you remember this story, the dog is trying to find somebody who will be his owner. And the beginning of on this page of the story, the dog has sent a letter, and so we can see the male woman here is outside, but I like how they've drawn just a really simple drawing here inside of the window about what's happening inside the fire station. So the setting has a scene of the inside where the dog is sitting with the guy here having some coffee. And then we also have the outside scene with the male woman who's right here on the outside of the building. Okay, so inside versus outside, but they're all in one picture. And the setting of this story changes too because the male woman walks all over town. The setting is in the town, but it's specific scenes in the setting that change from page to page. So here you can see she's at another location now. She's still in the town, so we could say that the setting of this book is the town overall. However, it has specific places where it changes throughout the story. So now she's in front of the butcher shop. She's still delivering her mail outside of the buildings, but you can see inside here where the author has drawn a window to see an inside scene of what's happening inside. So this butcher here, you can see her inside with some of her meats and her counter, and the author is showing you inside and outside details in the same exact picture. So that takes a good illustrator to have some of those creative ideas, okay? So that's just a couple examples of how we can show our setting changing over time, and how we can also have our setting show inside and outside scenes through doors and windows, maybe garages, things like that. So be thinking about how your setting can change over time if it needs to, if your character's moving to different places or trying out different scenes like an inside or outside. And then especially when you go to include your illustrations is when you're going to build upon those setting details and you're going to draw those inside and outside scenes. So see if you can try that today in your writing, and I hope you have a great day.